Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here we're doing a dedicated audio review of the Citroen e-C4. If you'd like a detailed review of the vehicle itself, do check it up on your pop banner, down the description below, or indeed in the pinned comments. Now on review is the Sense model that comes with 6 speakers. There are audio drivers found within each of the 4 doors, and then one's found within the A-pillars, they're tweeters to be more specific. If you want a heightened audio experience, you'll want to go for one of the more expensive trim levels, and here you've got 8 drivers, the 6 aforementioned drivers, and then you've got one within the center of the dashboard and another one which resides in the boot, and yes indeed that is a subwoofer. Now for you to tinker around with the audio drivers, you have to go on the 10-inch infotainment system and find the appropriate menu. Once you do so, you'll be able to find a 3-band EQ. In our case, we've taken 1 notch off the bass and added 1 notch onto the mid and treble EQs. We've also enabled loudness. Of course, this is all very subjective, so do share your own settings down in the comment section below. Now it's worth considering that if you do want to connect up to the infotainment system via your smartphone, the Bluetooth, SPC and AC codecs are supported only. If however you want a better audio fidelity, you want to plug in your smartphone, and here the Type-C port that's found towards the front of the center console supports Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which are both great to see. However, in our case we found that Android Auto was a little bit temperamental. We're not sure if it's to do with our cable setup or for example the adapter. It's not something that we've noted in other vehicles, and therefore that's why we're only highlighting it. Something worth considering if you're trying out the e-C4 for the first time, just to see how the connection actually operates. Moving swiftly on, we get onto cabin noise, and the numbers will be on your screen right now where it was tested by us using a sound meter. What we'll say here is that it's far superior than a lot of its rivals, from the likes of the MG ZS EV, the Kia e-Niro, the Hyundai Kona Electric, or even vehicles from the Stellantis group, such as the Peugeot e-2008. Now this is in part due to the acoustic insulation pack that comes fitted as standard on all trim levels, and also due to its fantastic suspension system, which soaks up a lot of the anomalies and therefore doesn't give you that sort of resonance within the cabin. Suffice to say, it's one of the quieter cabins out there on the market, let alone for its price tag. Now with all of that in mind, let's get on to an audio demo. We'll be placing the camera and microphone in 4 separate locations and playing back a track from Priya J, which is titled Like Me. If you'd like to hear it for yourself, do check it out down in the description below. Now I appreciate an audio demo over YouTube is never ideal, but nonetheless let me get on to my subjective opinion. First off, in terms of the sub-bass tones, they're not really there, at least not in a stock 6-speaker system, and that's because you have an emission of a subwoofer. See here, the more premium audio systems that have got the subwoofer will provide you a far better low-end extension, and therefore give you that extended rumble. Now as for the mid-bass, it's pretty punchy, it can be a little bit uncontrolled at times, and in our respect we actually took out 1 notch from the bass EQ in order to kind of level it a bit. It sounded a little bit boomy as soon as we got into the cabin. Now as for the mids, however, they're a bit recessed and pushed back. Now while you might be tempted to completely ramp up the mids EQ via the infotainment system, you'll find that the overall accuracy completely diminishes. So for example on Priya J's vocals. As a result, we only added 1 notch in order to try and give that extra little mid-range boost, but that's not quite going to be counteracting it fully and won't compete with more premium audio systems out there on the market. As for the highs, they extend pretty well, at least at the front of the cabin, whereby you've got the dedicated tweeters. However, at the rear of the cabin, due to the emission of any sort of tweeters, it means the sound will feel a little bit more subdued. Adding 1 notch to the treble EQ added a little bit of extra zing, at least to our ears. If however you go for extra notches on the treble EQ, you might find it to be a little bit sibilant and harsh at the top end. end. Now, aside from the frequency range, what about when it comes to its soundstage reproduction? Well, here the instrument separation is actually pretty good, at least at the front of the cabin where you're treated with those dedicated tweeters. They really aid in terms of giving you better instrument separation and those better positional cues. So for example, if you're listening to classical music. If, however, you're listening to live recordings, you'll find that the overall width and depth just feels a little bit closed and doesn't feel as airy as it should be. Alas, over here, if you had more audio drivers positioned within the cabin, you'll get a heightened audio experience. Now, of course, in the more expensive trim levels, you've got that center dashboard speakers, which will certainly aid in that development, at least at the front of the cabin, although won't change the experience for those who are sat at the back. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to portray in this review. If you want a heightened audio experience, you might want to consider going for the more expensive trim levels, as they will provide you a dedicated subwoofer, which bolsters the low-end reproduction, and a center driver speaker, which will give you a better soundstage reproduction. Now, of course, if you can't afford that, the stock audio system is still not too bad and will certainly suffice for the average consumer. As a result, it gets TotallyEV's Approved Award. Now, I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts of the audio system, be it in the stock or the upgraded e-C4, down in the comments section below. If you've liked this independent detailed review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing, or hitting that bell notification, all of which are greatly appreciated. And if you've done that already, we just want to thank you in advance. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.